each individual size as having its own dangers, and they do that very well. Like each every 10 minutes you see him in a different size, and with every size change comes just different dangers that he has to deal with. And they just come up with some absolutely incredible and innovative ways of using like weapons and just the general environment to survive. It's fantastic. Like one part I really like is when he looks completely done with the cat, because it's in this, he's in the open carpet. The cat is looking like he wants to eat him badly. And so you're like, what is he going to do?
Even the emasculated feelings of your domestic house cat wants to just like eat you and like beat the shit out of you.
This thing that used to purr on your chest every single morning and you just feed it food and scoop its shit is now trying to kill you and eat you. Yeah, it's wild. And this awesome moment, he notices a wire and he pulls it down so that the lamp comes down and scares the cat.
Sick moment.
And it's kind of risky too, because he's small himself. So you're thinking, oh shit, he could injure himself. And so there's a lot of really good action beats like that. And that's even before we get to the basement sequence, which is just unfucking believable. But before we do that, I love the moment where he feels like he kind of might be able to feel normal because he meets another girl that is his same size. And so he gets this like sense of
he meets this
again.
woman Clarice, who is like this sort of beautiful dwarf woman who works, I think it's implied, at kind of like the local circus freak show.
Yeah. And at first it seems like, she's kind of brought some spark to his life again, and it does seem a little bit sad at first because
she's like, down here the sky is as blue and the friends are as warm, living in the land of the giants or whatever she says. I've lived like this my whole life. I have value at this size. You could have value at this size, which is because most of this movie is like this guy feeling inadequate now and basically resisting this change for obvious reasons, because it's happening incredibly fast, but at the same time, like, at a certain point, this is a movie of just like, there are things that are out of your control. And so she does give him this idea of like, you could think about your future and live a different life. It is possible. And he does briefly get a grip on life again, as he says it, and he imagines kind of like starting over again, at this size. And then he realizes, meeting up with her, that he's now shorter than her as well, and that it's still happening. And that moment where he's just like, it's still happening, and like,
I'm shorter than the woman again. No! And he just like runs into the hills, and that's
very upsetting.
And that's, I think, when you get the cut into the dollhouse, which is like, you kind of think it's another emasculation a little bit. He's the size of a Barbie doll. He's living in this his
wife
white,
walking around the house is cinematically treated like she's like Godzilla. Like she's gonna fucking like destroy his house by just coming down the stairs too fast.
And even when we were talking about the cat, the initial fight sequence, when the cat just easily rips into his house and tears off the walls and destroys it, like with no problem at all. So he just it feels like he's in danger constantly at this point. There's no more of that. Well, there still is, of course, the emotional aspect of it, but it seems like he doesn't have as much time to really think about that stuff because he's constantly trying to live through these dangerous scenarios. Yeah,
well, I mean, that's what's really intriguing to me about this, is that, all of the kind of petty concerns that he has about, his place in, sort of average domestic American life, which is his primary concern when this thing starts, and the thing that's frustrating him and kind of angering him, and all of these, this sort of pain and anger and lashing out to his wife, about how he doesn't feel as powerful and in control as he used to be. That slowly, with the sort of one of the climactic sequences of the house cat attack, where it, like, literally it's like a incredible sequence where like the cat is like pawing into his dollhouse, but like you're getting perspective shots where like the cat's giant face is like looking through the windows, and it's like trying to tag him with the paws and like chasing him on the carpet floor, and it genuinely is like a thrilling monster movie action sequence, but with a cat. Like it's just surreal to look at, and it's very convincingly rendered.
They even have a cool jump scare a little bit where he hears the cat outside, and then he opens the door, and the cat's face is right there, and it yells like
right there, and it's like hissing at him.
Yeah, it's very cool. And once again, we are just looking at a house cat, and prior to this, you've just looked at it like, you know, getting its belly rubbed, drinking milk, just being a completely normal good boy.
Yeah. Well, and that triggers the second half of the film, because the cat, eventually in fighting the cat, there's this big moment that I think is awesome where the cat is trying to like push its way through a door, and he's trying to like hold the door closed, and it's this great 2-shot of him like small Scott holding the door so the cat won't open it, and the actual footage of this cat like trying to burst through the door and like putting its leg through and like yelling and, you know, trying to get in. Like it's like literally that moment.
Pissed that cat off.
Yeah. And it's awesome too, because from what I understand, they had to get that footage of the cat first. Right. And then they had to build everything else that they were doing around
to it,
that.
Right?
Because exactly. He had to react, because normally they would do, you know, like even nowadays, like they would do the reverse of that, right? Where they would they'd shoot it all on set, and then they would like, you know,
CGI
they would
a monster into it.
they would CG a cat, you know. Yeah. whereas here they, you know, they needed to get this footage of this cat doing an attack, and then having, you know, figuring out a way to, you know, work that in,
and it starts the second things. I think that's why it's so impressive, is because the cat's doing quite a lot. Like it's hissing at proper times. They have moments where it's just stopping and looking at something on the ground, and it's just very